Okay, so today we are diving deep into something you probably walk on every single day, but maybe don't think too much about.
Yep.
The ground, right beneath our feet. And today's deep dive, well, it's really designed to change how you see what most people just call dirt. Our sources are pretty interesting. They come from notes and analysis by two students, Kesser and Steen. They were in Professor Hendricks' Nature and Innovation class, really digging into the biology of agricultural soil, their goal, to figure out why things like organic matter and microbes are just so critical for truly healthy plants.
It's a great mission, actually, because it really forces you to move past that old view of soil, just sand, silt, clay, inert stuff.
Mm.
But the numbers these students were looking at, they show pretty quickly that a healthy field, or even your garden, isn't just dirt. It's more like a living city.
The living city,
Wow.
made of living things. And the scale is just, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, isn't it?
It really is.
Let's start there. In just 1 hectare of healthy soil, that's about 2.5 acres, for reference, you can find up to 20 tons of living organisms.
20 tons.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. It's like having, I don't know, maybe 4 big elephants living under that patch of ground invisibly. And that includes the bigger stuff you might see, like earthworms, right? They could be 2, maybe 4 tons per hectare.
Okay.
And then you've got these huge invisible fungal networks, mycorrhiza and the like. But the real weight, the sheer numbers, it's the bacteria and the other tiny stuff. You've got literally billions of bacteria in every single gram of healthy soil.
Billions per gram.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you could somehow gather up all that microbial life from 1 hectare and dry it out, it'd weigh somewhere between 10 and 15 tons consistently.
That's an entire hidden civilization down there. It really does make that textbook definition feel, well, inadequate. I think I owe my backyard an apology for calling it dirt.
Huh, maybe. But the point the students kept coming back to is huge, this massive amount of life. It's not just there, it's the engine. It runs almost every vital cycle. How nutrients get released, how carbon gets locked into the soil, even how healthy and resistant the plants are. So when you disturb that soil, kill off that life, well, it stops being a living system. It just becomes, dead material that needs constant chemical inputs.
That actually leads perfectly into the first big thing Kesser and Steen looked at, timing. They saw this contrast, right?
Yeah.
So really productive farmland has maybe 4 or 5% organic content thriving. But then you have other areas, like some conventional farms in North America, way lower than that, struggling. They zeroed in on management. And Kesser asked this really simple but smart question. If we want to add organic stuff, leaves in the fall, compost, whatever, is there a best time? Like a key window after harvest, but before it gets really cold. Could that help turn the material into microbial food for the spring?
Yes, exactly. They really hit on something important there, that window right after harvest. It's crucial. The soil still has some warmth left over, so the temperature is still good enough for the microbes to be pretty active and start breaking down that organic matter. They're essentially pre-digesting it. And this slow work, even if it stops and starts a bit with frost, it turns that loose stuff into 2 really valuable things. One is stable, long-lasting humus.
Okay.
And the other is just more microbial life itself, more biomass. It becomes this kind of energy bank for the soil.
Yep.
You're charging the system.
So it's not just about covering the ground like a blanket. It's about actively feeding that microbial army so they can build up the reserves.
Precisely. So when spring rolls around and the soil warms up again, that microbial community is already there, mature, ready to go. It can release those nutrients steadily just when the new plants need them most for that burst of growth. It's like an on-demand system, totally different from just dumping chemical fertilizer on cold soil in spring.
Right. And does this challenge that that old idea that a hard frost is somehow good for the soil? Like it cleans it up.
Oh, completely. Frost is really just a pause button biologically. It's not a cure-all antiseptic. Sure, freezing and thawing can sometimes help break up heavy clay physically, but for soil life, it doesn't fix underlying health issues. Most of the bad guys, pathogens, disease spores, they're incredibly tough. They just go dormant, form protective shells, and wait it out.
Yeah.
And sometimes really sharp, sudden freezes can actually damage the beneficial fungi, the delicate networks.
So protecting the soil over winter is key then. Covering it with mulch, leaves, compost. That helps the microbes.
Absolutely. It buffers the temperature, keeps moisture stable, protects that whole delicate world. You end up with a much stronger living foundation to start the next season instead of, starting from scratch.
Okay, that makes sense. And that thinking connects directly to what they found about nitrogen, right?
Yeah.
This idea of a regenerative approach.
Yes, exactly. The students did some calculations based on their sources, and get this. A living soil cover just the organic matter lying on top, can hold up to 100 times more nitrogen N than what you'd typically apply with standard chemical NPK fertilizer.
100 times. And
Yes.
that's a massive difference in quantity. But I'm guessing the type of nitrogen matters just as much. Chemical N is just an ion, right? Fast acting.
That's the crucial point. Nitrogen locked up in organic matter is completely different. It's delivered as part of a whole living system. It's stable, it releases slowly as microbes break it down, and it's tied into the whole carbon cycle, amino acids, everything. It's safe, predictable, available over months.
Not just a quick hit that mostly washes away.
Exactly. It doesn't just leach out into waterways like excess chemical N often does.
That brings us back to Steve's analogy, the banking one. Building up soil life is like investing, putting money in a diversified account for the long term.
Right. Stability, future growth. Not just chasing a quick chemical payout that leaves you needing more next time.
It's building actual soil wealth.
It is. It's building capital. And they saw this banking idea applies to other nutrients too, especially the mobile ones like potassium. K-potassium is notorious for leaching, just washing away, especially if you have sandy soil or lots of rain.
Okay, so if it washes away so easily, how does this organic matter approach building humus help hold on to it?
This is where humus is really amazing. It acts like the soil's molecular battery. It's about the structure. Humus particles, they have this incredibly large surface area, and crucially, they carry a net negative electrical charge. Think of them like millions of tiny sticky magnets spread through the soil.
Okay, negatively charged magnets. Got it.
Exactly. And these negative charges, they're perfectly designed to grab onto and hold positively charged ions, cations. Well, potassium ions are positive. Calcium Ca, magnesium, Mg, also positive. This ability to hold on to cations is called the cation exchange capacity, or CEC.
CEC.
More humus means much higher CEC, so instead of that Ca just washing straight through the soil when it rains,
It gets stuck to the humus magnets.
precisely, it gets held there electrostatically until a plant root comes along and does a little swap. It releases a hydrogen ion to grab the Ca it needs. So the humus acts as this perfect storage and exchange unit. It stops that valuable K from just disappearing over winter.
That makes so much sense. It's not just a sponge, it's electrically active. That stability. It sounds like the bedrock for plant defense, too.
It really is. Which brings us to Kesser's other big focus. Healthy plants are the best defense. And let's be clear, the pathogens, the fungi, the spores that cause diseases, they are unbelievably resilient. They can hang around for decades in the soil. Cold just puts them on pause. They're always there, basically.
Right. So if they're always present, how does a healthy plant actually defend itself effectively against something so persistent? Is it just about having good microbes fighting them off?
That's a huge part of it, yes. The primary defense. A really active root zone, teeming with beneficial symbiotic microbes. It creates this biological shield, this wall. The good guys outcompete the pathogens for food, for space, and crucially, they actually stimulate the plant's own immune system, sort of priming it.
Okay, but if those pathogens are so tough, isn't spraying chemicals sometimes just the only way? A quick fix to knock them back?
Well, that's the paradox, isn't it? Most chemical treatments are broad spectrum. They don't just kill the pathogen.
They kill the good guys, too.
Exactly. They wipe out the beneficial microbes that form that first line of defense. So the soil ends up biologically weaker, more open to the next attack. It creates this dependency cycle.
And this is where the student sources pointed to something really cool about the plant itself, right? We used to think plants just sat there, but are actually managing things.
Yes. This is fascinating new research. Plants actively farm specific bacteria inside their own roots, endophytic bacteria.
Farm them?
Well, the plant gives them sugars and acids, valuable food. And in return, the bacteria provide nutrients, yes, but also protection. They ward off pathogens right there inside the root tissue.
So the plant isn't just a passive victim. It's like a tiny land manager, cultivating its own microbial defense force.
A highly sophisticated one, creating just the right conditions for the microbes it needs, right where it needs them. It's amazing.
Speaking of complex biology, Kesser found this link between plant defense and things we eat, specifically fungi, like medicinal mushrooms, shiitake, reishi. The health benefits often come from complex sugars, polysaccharides, particularly beta-glucans, and chitin.
That's right. And chitin, well, that's the stuff fungal cell walls are made of. It's also in insect shells. It gives them structure, rigidity.
Okay, so Kesser's final leap was, if chitin is part of the threat, the fungus, could we use it, or something derived from it to help defend plants?
A brilliant question. And yes, the research on chitin, and especially its derivative chitosan, which dissolves better in water, is really promising. They found it works in two clever ways.
Two ways, okay.
First is the elicitor effect. Think of it like a vaccine, or maybe a fire drill for the plant. When the plant detects small fragments of chitin, even if you just spray them on, its internal alarms go off.
Why?
Because chitin means fungus nearby, or insect chewing. It signals an attack is happening, or might be soon, so the plant's immune system kicks into high gear.
So it preemptively boosts its defenses.
Exactly. It starts making more of its own antifungal compounds, strengthening its cell walls. It gets ready before the real attack gets bad. There's specific research, for instance, showing that certain types of chitosan, the student sources mentioned low polymerization grade, can trigger this defense in grapevines against things like downy and powdery mildew. Really powerful stuff.
Wow, you're basically tapping into the plant's own ancient alarm system.
That's a great way to put it. And the second mechanism is more direct, the direct antifungal effect. Chitosan itself can actually interfere with the growth of some pathogenic fungi or stop their spores from germinating properly. It makes the leaf surface or the soil environment less welcoming for them.
So it both warns the plant and attacks the pathogen directly.
Yes, it's a dual approach, much smarter than just trying to sterilize everything, right? It encourages resilience.
Definitely. Okay, let's switch gears slightly for the last section to Steen's observation about water. This was quite poetic, actually. He noticed that water in nature moving through soil, moss, plants seemed different, almost like a gel, he said, more structured than just, tap water.
He was onto something profound there, maybe without even knowing the term. It relates to cutting-edge research on what's called exclusion zone water, or EZ water, sometimes structured water. It turns out that when water meets a hydrophilic surface, a water-loving surface, which includes basically all cell membranes and most soil particles, the water molecules right next to that surface don't just stay random. They spontaneously organize themselves into these ordered, layered, almost crystalline structures, like a liquid crystal or a thin layer of gel.
Seriously, water organizes itself.
Right near these surfaces, yes. And this structure is really important. It creates a slight electrical charge separation, and it changes the water's properties. This structured, or living water, seems better at holding dissolved gases like oxygen, and it might make nutrient transport more efficient. It's the ideal medium for life.
So the very shape of the soil particles in the roots influences the quality of the water inside.
It seems so. That slow, porous movement through living systems encourages this structure. Contrast that with water rushing through a straight, smooth pipe, it loses that special organization, that potential.
Fascinating. And the students link this to a couple of specific natural soil inputs. First, seaweed, which they called tang. We know it has minerals, but what about structure?
Ah, the structure is key. They talked about nature's glue, and that's the complex polysaccharides in seaweed things like alginates and laminorum. These are large, sticky molecules. When they get into the soil, they bind tiny soil particles together into larger clumps or aggregates. This process, called flocculation, is vital.
Why is clumping so important?
Because it creates porous spaces. It turns dense soil or loose sand into something with structure. It improves drainage and water retention, allows air in. The alginates act like a flexible internal scaffolding holding everything together. Plus, seaweed brings natural plant growth regulators.
Okay, and the second one was moss. Moss, often seen as just annoying stuff on lawns.
Yeah, we tend to fight it, don't we? But ecologically, moss is incredible. It's one of the most effective carbon capture systems on the planet.
Really?
Moss, absolutely. It pulls co-rose out of the air very efficiently and locks it into its biomass. And crucially, moss decomposes very slowly, especially if it's damp. So over time, it contributes significantly to building up that stable humus, locking carbon away in the soil for the long term.
So ripping out moss because it doesn't look like a perfect lawn is kind of counterproductive from a soil health and carbon perspective.
It often is, yes. It's choosing aesthetics over some really valuable ecological functions. The students' work really drove home how all these pieces, even the ones we overlook, contribute to the whole living system.
What an amazing journey, really, into this world beneath our feet, all thanks to Kesser and Steen's explorations. I think the big takeaway for you, listening, has to be this. When you start seeing soil as a living system, and you treat it that way with consistent organic inputs, encouraging diversity, respecting its rhythms, that's how you build real, lasting fertility and health. We're dealing with living feedback loops here, not just, pouring chemicals onto dead dirt.
Exactly. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. We talk about those complex polysaccharides, right? Chitin, beta-glucans. They're structural in fungi, but they're also alarm signals for plant defense. So if plants are literally learning from and responding to these molecular signals from the microbial world around them, what else are the thousands of complex organic molecules in truly healthy living soil teaching us? Or teaching our own biology when we interact with that soil or eat things grown in it?
Hmm. What other deep connections are waiting there between the health of the soil and our own health? Between what defends the earth and what defends us? Definitely something to ponder next time you're out in the garden, looking at what you used to just call dirt